So Sam Darnold is in a really weird position because he's obviously the best available free agency quarterback ahead of like guys like what Wilson and Fields, and he really only has two options for like at least staying on decent teams. Is staying on the Vikings, probably taking a lesser deal and trying to recreate the success they had this year. Maybe they do a little better, a little less, usually how that kind of goes. Or he ends up in Pittsburgh. But obviously Pittsburgh has Fields and Russell Wilson. And I would assume Russell Wilson would probably want to stay just to get a full season with Pittsburgh, hopefully do better, because he played really well throughout the stretch. Last few games kind of shit the bed, but overall, they still had a really good season. But if he doesn't stay, I could see Darnold taking over. But again, it's not for a bunch of money either. It'd be probably for lesser money. But you have a chance to make the playoffs again and continue the whole Mike Tomlin has a over 500 record conversation, yada, 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 and then probably losing the playoffs again. But beyond those two teams, he's kind of fucked because everyone else is just really bad. I mean, there's obviously chances they could, with a new coaching staff and maybe getting some players in free agency in the draft, things could turn around quickly, but pretty much really he's going to go to a bad team and get a bunch of money. That's pretty much just what it is. Because people bring up the Jets, but that's if Aaron Rodgers doesn't leave. And if he does leave, obviously, yeah, he's good. But I don't see Sam Darnold rejoining the Jets. Why would he want to recreate that bullshit he went through the first time? Because that's like dating someone. It didn't work out. And then years later, you're like, I mean, they look better. Still kind of shit. Still not the greatest person, but maybe it's like, no, why do this again? It didn't work the first time. It's not going to work again. And you have the Browns here, but that depends on what they want to do with Deshaun Watson because they're paying this guy a bunch of money, and I highly doubt he's going to want to just be benched for Sam Darnold. And if the Browns can get healthy, they may be a decent team. They may be. But also, if they have a better quarterback, they may also do well. But I'm not convinced, and I don't think they're going to get rid of Deshaun Watson. So this doesn't seem much of an option. This isn't really a good option, in my opinion. I understand they have Malik Neighbors, who's going to be a great wide receiver. And they have Tyrone Tracy, who's also going to be, I think, a really good running back. But beyond that, that's kind of it. I mean, they have, obviously, like Jalen Hyatt, Wanda Robinson, guys who I think could still be good, but I'm just not convinced they're going to be a good team regardless. I'm sure Malik Neighbors will still get his 1,000 yards, whether it's Sam Darnold or a Drew Lock or a Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or a Shador or Cam Ward. Whoever it is, he's still going to get his. But Sam Darnold going here is just going to do New York Jets Part 2, in my opinion. It's not going to go well. I know people bring up the Indianapolis Colts, and I just don't see them wanting to bench Richardson. I still think that's their franchise quarterback going forward. I still think that's who they want to be their franchise quarterback. And I just don't see them paying Sam Darnold and also having Anthony Richardson. But I could be wrong. The Raiders are interesting because they have Brock Bowers, who's probably going to be the next great tight end in the league. As I assume. I know it's only been his rookie year, but the dude was phenomenal in college. He just had a phenomenal rookie year. He's probably going to have a phenomenal NFL career. But beyond that, they don't really have a whole lot going for them. And I don't see why Sam Darnold would want to play for them. Especially, he'll just end up in that carousel of quarterbacks that they've had the last few years where things seem to go well on paper before the season, and then it all just falls apart, and then it just kind of gets worse and worse. So I don't see why they'd want to do that again, but the Raiders are the Raiders. So. And then you have the Tennessee Titans, which they all thought Will Levis was going to be a guy. I also kind of thought that too after his rookie year. But I don't know what happened. He just went fucking downhill real fast. But Tennessee also kind of just sucks. I mean, they haven't really done all that well. I mean, they have Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard and a couple other guys on offense. But beyond that, it's not really a good team. And I don't see, Brian Callahan as their head coach, really going to continue to turn things around. And I don't think Sam Darnold's really going to be that piece. I just think he'll just be a slightly better version of Will Levis, who was a little bit more competent and will probably do okay, but it's still not going to help them win any division anytime soon. So it's not like it's really worth it. Plus, they're probably going to go after a Shador or Cam anyway. So I don't see them drafting a quarterback and then also paying Sam Darnold. So it doesn't really make sense. So basically, it just seems like he could either stay in Minnesota or go to Pittsburgh and make some decent money, but not as much money, or go to a really bad team, probably struggle a lot, but get a massive bag. It kind of just seems like he should just stay in Minnesota if that's what they want, and then just develop J.J. McCarthy until it's his time to take over. And then Sam Darnold could leave, get a bunch of money, and then J.J. McCarthy becomes the franchise quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because, again, there's guys like Justin Fields available, and then a bunch of pretty much backup quarterbacks for the rest of it because there's not a lot of good quarterbacks in free agency or the draft this year. Obviously, besides like Cam, Shador, I would also put Jalen up there. Will Howard's all right. Jackson Dart's been a big name recently for a lot of people. So it's kind of like a little top heavy, and then it kind of just drops drastically. But either way, Sam, just stay in Minnesota. Save yourself the trouble. Recreate what you did this year, and have a happily ever after.